this is I say the most difficult part is actually that jump, that really big jump from phase one into phase two, because phase one is like the door is open, yay, wide. And then a lot of times when it's only open that wide, it's a very sticky door. It doesn't want to open the rest of the way. So that's, phase one is right there and phase two is wide open. So what you have to do is you have to just push with all your might to open that door, to get it to finally swing wide open. Okay, phase one gives you some proof, but not, like I said, you can start to barely see something's different, and you definitely feel it. Okay, but as far as seeing, you barely start to see something different. It's noticeable enough to know, but it still looks too humanoid to really, so the biggest, I think, two things that I can say that help is to not move and be completely limp. Okay, you don't want to tense up anything, because that will prohibit it. I don't know why. Moving or tensing something up is going to prohibit. So just lie still and try to be as limp as you can. Because for whatever reason, like I said, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, if you don't do that, it prohibits the progression, okay, of it. So don't theatrical, like I was saying before, and go, no. It's going to stop it from happening. The second thing that I would say to remember when you go into phase two, and yes, these are a bit of a refresher, but it's what makes or breaks whether or not you're able to do it. So it's worth saying in a little bit more depth than before. So the next thing that I'd say is that you need to have control over your thoughts. By that I mean, if you try to say, let me do this, at the same time you're telling yourself, this is stupid, why am I doing this? Then it's going to cancel it out, because this kind of magic goes through intent and intent alone. And if you put two conflicting intents together, it will completely stop it from happening. Okay. Anyone can get through phase one. Almost anyone. I won't say anyone. I take that back. Almost anyone can get through phase one. It's a lot more difficult to get through phase two. If your chakras are balanced enough, you can do a partial shift through phase two, but you might not be able to do a complete shift. I talked about that a bit more in phase one, and you will need to look at phase one, because there's no way that you can do this without knowing about that. So you're going to have to, unfortunately, look at that before you watch this. If you haven't watched that yet, please do. What I'm about to say in this is going to make a lot more sense. So the lastly tip that you need to remember, like I said, is that things need to be done with balance. Pure intent, balance, and chakras as strong as possible. Should not, like I said before, should not pain you. It may feel uncomfortable. It should not. Phase two shouldn't pain you either. Nothing should pain you unless your chakras are immensely imbalanced. And if that's the case, then you need to stop, because it could literally kill you. But other than that, as long as you're balanced, there's no wrath to come to you. There's nothing bad is going to happen as long as you're balanced. Okay. So getting that out of the way, I had to, because I know a lot of people won't look at the first. And I had to at least say the most important parts. But anyway, you still need to know the tactics of phase one to get. So you've got that tingly sensation phase one, and you've got kind of like a barely can tell a difference. We would take the paw/claws or whatever as an example again. You can barely tell the difference, but you can definitely see when you compare it to your other assuming that you only tried to shift one, okay, that something is really different. You know, you may even just be it without comparing. You may just be able to look at it and say, okay, well, it still looks like a hand, but something's off here. I definitely did something, you know, something is definitely happening, but, you know, I still look human. So that's the end of phase one. Phase two, it starts out where that tingling sensation becomes almost unbearable, or at least you start feeling kind of the muscles, bones shifting and things. At a certain point in phase two, it's kind of like there's no turning back, because at a certain point, you're gonna have to be completely still. If you try to do this standing up, at that point, if you are standing up, there's high chances that you're going to fall. Because what happens is, at a certain point in phase two, what happens to you is kind of exactly what happens when you're in between asleep and awake. Have you ever been at that in-between moment where you can feel yourself almost drift out of consciousness, almost go unconscious, but you're still conscious? If you've ever had one of those paralysis dreams, it feels a lot like that. It feels like you're really groggy, half asleep, half awake, kind of, but you're still awake. You know, you're still always awake. You never actually go to sleep. But it's that feeling. It kind of feels like you're about to go unconscious, but you never do. It feels really kind of dreamlike, for lack of a better term. But a dream that you never fall asleep. So what's happening to your body actually is a lot like sleep paralysis, that dream paralysis dream thing, because when we actually are asleep, our bodies kind of, they stop a lot of movement. There's a certain phase of sleep, especially, I can't remember exactly what it is, where the body actually can't move that much. So things a deeper level of sleep, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, this is not sleep, but it basically works like that. Your body just kind of naturally prevents itself from moving. At this point, you're in a completely altered state of mind. At this point, you're inadvertently in a very deep trance. And you don't always need something to get you into that trance. A lot of times it just happens naturally. When you're in that state, and when your body literally physically, other than involuntary movements like breathing, like the muscles and bones shifting and that kind of thing, okay, that's the only movement that really can exist in that period of time. You wouldn't be able to actually give your body a command to move. You wouldn't be able to probably to even talk in that moment, okay? So there are certain things that if you're positioned physically, body is positioned in the wrong way, can be quite dangerous. Like I said, worst case scenario, if you get into a scenario that's dangerous, all you have to do is reverse the shift. But it'd be best if you didn't get to that point at all anyway. It's best if you just make sure that whatever position you decide to lie down in is a position that naturally, you know, your species would be able to be in, okay? Obvious things I'm not going to go over, But there's one thing that I think a lot of people forget about, okay? And if it's not a wolf-like species, then maybe you won't have this problem. But I'd say a lot of animals are like this, where your tongue, if your tongue is in the wrong position, and you're shifting at the, at a certain, like say your tongue is shifting faster than your lower jaw, for example, there is a high possibility that your tongue is going to actually constrict your airways if you do not place your tongue in a proper position. So human tongues lie flat like that, but wolf tongues have to curl up underneath themselves and kind of splay out on the side a bit to be able to have room, because they're so long. So what happens if I don't curl my tongue, if I don't, do this like that, okay, I can't really, it's probably not easy to see on the thing, but just trust me, I get a better visual actually what's going on with my hand, I think. So if you don't do that and you just let it lie flat, say that your tongue elongates before it actually thins, okay, so it gets longer before it gets thinner. That fat human tongue is going to hit the bottom jaw, and then it's going to kind of like swell up against the top jaw, and then before you know it, like say that open space is the tongue, okay, before you know it, it's let's see if I can before you know it, it's doing that, and it's gonna compress your airway. So you need to give it that extra inch or so, but by curling it under and splaying it out a bit, or open your mouth, and let it hang out, because otherwise, your own tongue is literally going to constrict your breathing, and when you're in that altered state, it's a lot more challenging to correct something like that when you're already in that altered state and your body is already in that paralysis mode. So you need to do that beforehand, not after. It's going to take a lot of practice and dedication. In fact, it's going to take a long time, probably before you can even get to the beginning stages of phase 2. The more balanced your chakras are, the quicker it'll come. Also, the more belief you have, the quicker it'll come. So those two things dictate how much time. But I'd say most spend not months but years, many years, and a lot never actually succeed in it either. So it's normal to take a while. It's normal, especially in today's era, to take a while to learn it. So don't just give up. Keep trying.